channels. It's Bailey and French here, talking on Monday Live about humanising the world of work. I'm here this morning with Ant again. It's been a couple of weeks since we've done this together. Ant, how are you doing?
Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it? Yeah, really good. Yeah, just come back from a weekend in Berlin. So I'm feeling a little bit tired, if I'm honest. Yeah. But yeah, really, really good. Thanks.
Well, I think there's a lot of people that, despite the wins, are still trying to get away. And I know for half the country, it's also half term as well. So there's kind of parents trying to plan all sorts of things over this week. But thank you to those people who are joining us either in the moment or as the recording. We're talking about all the things that are going on for us at the moment, what's happening with our clients, our community, and specifically kind of in terms of humanising work, what could we focus on this week that's most relevant? What's the kind of so what about humanising work that's going to make the difference to how we work and how we feel and our lives essentially as well? And I think one of the things that came up for me while I was thinking about prepping for today was just looking ahead to the next few weeks and kind of all my LinkedIn feed, as well as other emails popping into the inbox. There's an influx of awards. It is awards season. I am being invited to apply for so many different awards and sponsor them and be involved in them. And there's a multitude of them, and in lots and lots of different wonderful ways, people trying to find ways to celebrate their achievements and their accomplishments. And it really just made me think, there's a lot going on. We've been through a lot as well. What is it about awards that creates positive emotions and pride in our work? What is it that creates inspiration for our team and for others? And I really just thought that might be a good thing for us to explore today, Ant, in terms of kind of that awards season.
Yeah, and you're right. LinkedIn's full of it at the moment. People. And quite rightly, we put an awful lot of work, or a lot of people put an awful lot of work into their everyday, and it's been a hard couple of years, and, strategies may not have gone the way that you want them to, but, taking those moments to really feel proud of the things that you've achieved, the progress that you've made, either personally as a team or as a department organization, and kind of just taking a moment to celebrate it and recognize it. Even if it wasn't maybe living up to your full expectations, what you thought you may be able to achieve, but being able to just take those moments to reflect and not pat yourself on the back unnecessarily. Actually, it's just give yourself the credit that you are probably due if you've been, grinding through the gears over the last year or so.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because exactly that, and in the past I was quite cynical about awards because there are so many you can go for, and it seemed very much like, the more you pay, the better the opportunities you get in terms of where you sit and people you're involved in. But it feels a lot more fair now, I guess, in terms of really good independent judging panels, amazing judging panels for people who are able to really look into the depth of your applications for awards. And I love seeing our partners and people we know getting awards. And it just reminds me, we went for our first award a few years ago. And I remember thinking, I'm not sure whether this is the right thing for us to do or not. And actually, the biggest thing that came out of it was having the whole team there. And just this sense of pride that we had being together and celebrating. And I think, as most kind of performance-driven organizations, it's really hard to stop and go, gosh, actually, look at what we've done. This is brilliant, and celebrate. And I know a lot of people who focus on kind of delivery, who like to achieve and like to accomplish, they often struggle to celebrate, and they're always looking on to the next thing. What's the next thing? What's the next thing? So the minute they've kind of won something or achieved, it's just looking ahead to the horizon and not actually taking that moment to stop. And pride, is such an important emotion. It's one of the things that comes up the most in our PERMA workshops. When we do PERMA workshops around well-being, we have a specific one around positive emotions. And when you ask people, what's the strongest positive emotion that you feel at work regularly, it's always pride, the number one that comes up. I don't know if you felt that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when people talk about pride, or certainly in those workshops that you're talking about, it's about they're actually proud, not necessarily for themselves, but for other people or the team that they've achieved something together. I think there's something quite interesting about that, how it's okay to feel pride in a group of people, and when you're connected with others, you're almost celebrating someone else's success. But what's then really interesting is to challenge that and go, okay, but what are you proud of? What are you proud of today? And that can be really small things, or it can be something monumental. You know, there's lots of people kind of passing the CIPD qualifications and those sort of bigger, longer term things that they're really proud of as a personal achievement. But then you've got well, actually, I got through a really tough week last week, and I'm still here, and I'm still doing what I believe is still the right stuff, and going in the right direction. That's something to be proud of as well. Lots of parents really struggling through, you know, as you said, half term, working, hybrid working, juggling loads of different things. I think it's amazing that you even turn up to work and have the kind of the capacity to learn and think and strategize and deliver on results. I think it's amazing. So yeah, I think pride takes on a lot of forms when we talk about it in those workshops, for sure.
And it's funny, isn't it? Because when you talk about kind of a positive emotions workshop, I think some people kind of automatically think of like laughology and like it's all just about being really happy clappy, and clearly, you know, it's not. It's about what are the specific positive emotions that can support us to really think creatively with our brains in a way that actually, when we're feeling strong positive emotions, we can be more creative, innovative, we can problem solve. And you know, Barbara Fredrickson's work shows us that actually it's so much more. It's so much more than just sharing that. It's about noting it. It's about being very specific about what it is you're proud of, linking it into your strengths that you've used or that you've noticed in other people, being able to coach people to regularly celebrate their successes so they feel they're continually moving forward and feeling motivated. It's a really interesting kind of strong one. And one of the things that I guess me being quite vulnerable really and sharing here in front of anyone who's listening or watching is that, you know, I was invited to apply for some specific kind of female leadership awards. And my automatic reaction was, gosh, I can't possibly do that. That's far too arrogant and egotistical to imagine that, you know, I've done this or I've done it. You know, it's been the team, it's been a huge amount of effort over the years. And yet, in the back of my mind, I'm reading all those little quips and looking at all those just posts on LinkedIn about the fact that actually, where people are struggling to see equality in leadership levels, on boards, in exec teams, in company leadership, actually, it's really important for people to be able to see that there is diversity, and that people can, you know, take on board those kind of leadership roles, including the role that I have. And sometimes, you know, I disregard that. I don't think it's as important, but actually it is. And it brings me back to thinking about what is inspiration for others, and how can we make assumptions, or how can we, you know, allow ourselves to feel uncomfortable, but put ourselves out there for other people in terms of offering the opportunity to inspire new generations to be able to lead and change and influence cultures and workplaces, and you know, the ways of work. That's a huge ambition. I know it's vastly huge ambition I have, but you know, there's a lot of people that really care about that ambition. I'm not alone in it. And it's a very difficult thing to sit there and think to yourself, right, well, I'll fill out the application form then about my leadership, and without really checking yourself. And I know lots of people kind of with imposter syndrome who really kind of struggle to talk about their own achievements. How can we help people this week? Because I guess my so what question, how can we help people this week to really think about what they can do to build other people up and help them celebrate and achieve when perhaps they are people who really struggle with that?
Yeah, and it's a really tough one, actually. That I struggle with this. I don't know if other people will kind of reflect on this in the same way. How do you say to someone, "Oh, I'm really proud of you," without sounding like a parent?
Patronizing, yeah.
Right? It's a horrible feeling when you do it, and because you are genuinely proud of the achievement that someone has has maybe accomplished in your team or just outside of the team. It's someone in the business that you're like, wow, that's amazing. You know, charity champions that we have here, and you want to go, oh, I'm really proud of the work that you're doing here and you're championing. But you don't want to sound patronizing, and you don't want to sound like you're. So actually, yeah, it's a really good question. How do you give that sort of feedback without being patronizing? I think linking it back to the strengths is quite an interesting.
Let me play that back to you then. So how do you feel when someone says they're proud of you
I love this live coaching. Well, it's really tough, isn't it? Because I go, well, thanks. And I find it a bit awkward, but that's just me, right? I'm trying to think of a specific example where it's happened recently, but it's a difficult one to react to.
Mm-hmm. And I think maybe sometimes it's easier to say things like, I'm proud of what we've done here, or I'm proud of what we've been able to achieve, or what you've been able to achieve for the company. If you kind of take it away from that personal edge, I think, you know, it is really hard to get that right. And also then it's really hard to sometimes to get that from people too, because they don't want to say that they've achieved something, because they might be worried about, you know, pride coming before a fall in terms of something not going well next week. And, you know, there are challenges that face us all the time, and things don't always work out. Even the most wonderful things that you think are done and complete and brilliant can turn around and become, you know, really difficult situations down the line. Nothing to do with your effort and input. But that doesn't detract from the achievement and the accomplishment, does it? And yet some people really struggle with that because they don't want to, you know, celebrate before they've actually achieved the end goal. So how can we celebrate the small wins? And people talk about it all the time, celebrate small wins. But do we actually do it? And I think, you know, there's ways in which we can do it, you know, using our team chat feed to just highlight when people have had, you know, a good piece of news. I talk about it all the time. Always say good news, share good news, because it lifts everybody and everyone feels like, oh, hang on, we're doing something here. But it doesn't need to be, you know, a really huge win or the end of a program. It can be something quite small. Yeah. And I still feel it when someone shares that. If someone says, oh, I had a great phone call, or I had a great evaluation meeting, or came up with a great design, like, actually, that still feels fantastic, doesn't it?
Yeah. And maybe this comes into, and we've got a lot of clients at the moment kind of wanting to build that fearless organization. Obviously, there's a great book about that. And I guess it comes down to, what are we saying we're proud of? I like the idea of being proud of a behavior. So it kind of removes that. I haven't thought about that before, but kind of also thinking about how we're not just proud of achievements. We're proud of people that try and try something different and are fearless and kind of put their thoughts together, or maybe they've put a business plan together. And, you know, I don't know, there's lots of ways that you can be proud of someone without just being proud of an end achievement, because I think that does a lot to kind of build up this fearless, more agile culture. So I think being really conscious with what we're saying we're proud of.
And remembering what matters to people. Because I don't know about you, but when you have a large team, you know, constantly trying to work out everyone's strengths, trying to help people play to their strengths, thinking about what really matters to them, what's meaningful and purpose for each individual. We want to make sure that, you know, it's not one size fits all, that we're supporting everybody together and having those conversations. Remembering what it is, so that when something happens, you can help them promote that sense of pride and accomplishment, is also, I find, really hard. My memory stores just aren't that big anymore. But it's just, you know, just thinking to myself, oh my goodness, I don't even know whether this thing is actually something that they cared much about or they worked towards. And if it was, then we should be making something more of it, you know. And it's about, really, again, that just comes back down to relationships again, doesn't it? In terms of how well can you know people, how well can you automatically know what will make them proud of their work or of their behaviors, and how does that play into how they are at work and their motivation.
Yeah, and I guess this comes back to what you were talking about and sharing the point around your submission and for the award, and kind of looking back at, well, why does that mean something to you? Well, it means something because the whole of Bailey and French is built on the foundation that you want to be inspiring the next generation and a better future of work. So of course you want to say, do you know what? I'm doing all right here. You know, we're making progress. We're, you know, the business, everything is making such amazing progress that of course it's great to be taking a moment of self-reflection and celebrating that. I think more people should be doing that. I think and definitely, of course, when it comes down to representation and making sure that we see more people being put forward for those awards. You know, maybe, you know, if you're in a leadership position right now and you're seeing something that you really are proud of someone for, go and have a look at what awards are out there for people who are in your team and are part of that team, who you want to kind of create that platform for. Let's, as you say, let's build people up this week. Let's build platforms.
It's really lovely, actually, the positive and warm response that you get from award submissions, even if you don't win. So I found that was absolutely fascinating. So there was an award we went for, I think, Q2 last year, and I remember thinking, yeah, we were kind of runners up, but it was a really good award submission, and I was really proud just to be there and just to be able to say that, you know, that we'd applied for, you know, Large Business of the Year, like how everything that we'd come through, all the changes that we'd made to be able to submit something in that category. Actually, all of that was huge. And I didn't really think twice about it when I put a note on LinkedIn sort of saying, oh, you know, can't wait for the awards ceremony tonight for this piece. And we had a huge positive response from people going, well done, that's amazing. We hadn't even been there yet. No one had even, you know, won or found out anything at all. And I was very clear, I hadn't said we'd won, but I was saying, you know, I'm really proud that we're going to this awards ceremony. And the feeling, the positive connection and feeling towards the company was so overwhelming. It was really, that for me was inspiring as a leader, was just thinking, wow, you know, sometimes you make assumptions that people don't want to hear. People don't want to know, you know, that you're happy of what you've done or that you're proud of your achievements. But actually, when you're doing something that is meaningful for others and does matter, people do want to know. They do want to know how well you're doing. What's your progress? How are you reviewing? How well you're achieving your overall vision and aims? And that shouldn't always be an internal piece. You know, it's strongly important for your core team. But actually, it's as important for our clients and community to support that journey for the organisation and want to work with an organisation that cares so passionately about their purpose and making a difference to the people and planet around us. And I think maybe that's what's driving my thinking around what we do next in terms of awards.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, and connecting it to that infinite game that Simon Sinek talks about, of course. You know, if we're to continue playing this game of work for a purpose that we're trying to get to, that actually is probably pretty unrealistic to achieve an end goal. There isn't an end goal. There's no metric that says, right, we have now humanized the world of work. It doesn't work like that. But to build a community of people that believe in the same future and feel like we're making progress to achieving that better future for our kids and for families and for people more broadly across the world, not just UK. I think it's absolutely brilliant to be putting the stake in the ground and going, no, do you know what? We're proud of this community as a whole. Actually, a lot of people at that award ceremony were saying that. They were kind of going, this is an amazing journey that we've been on. This is an amazing team that we've built and an amazing community. And we couldn't be here without our brilliant customers and clients and community of people that support us and our brand. And I think that's right. You know, you don't get anywhere if you don't have that human connection with you know, the community that you're trying to build. So therefore I think pride's a really important binding mechanism to bind a community together.
It is, isn't it? And I'm becoming increasingly more proud, I think, of our difference in terms of our trajectory and actually striving to be an evergreen business and be around for the longer term. I think there's something about the pride of knowing we're setting something big up for the future that isn't going anywhere, that's going to be there for our clients through whatever happens next. It's not just about now. And I think that long-term pride. So yes, the short, quick wins are really important, aren't they? Like, how are we doing towards those pieces? But actually, in the long term as well, too, like, this is a small step in a very, very big journey. And feeling the awe of of what's ahead in terms of the years, the people, the work, the effort, but also just the pride of knowing that we've set ourselves a task that is really humongous and ambitious. And a lot of businesses, haven't done that. They're quite happy to take it as it comes and see what happens in 5 years or 10 years, and their strategies and plans really last long enough to maybe get through a few, rather than thinking ahead to kind of 20, 30, 40, maybe even longer. And I talk to a lot of evergreen businesses and leaders and chairmen of boards of businesses, particularly large family businesses. And their sense of pride when they tell you that they're a century-old business and that they've got something that's, 4 generations of the same family have been striving to keep the business, innovating and forward-thinking for what's going to be needed next. And their clients and their customers are so connected throughout those years. Really talking about long-term partnersip. I think that's something that really sets us apart, certainly in this country, in the UK. I don't hear many businesses talking about those pieces at all. And I think that for me is probably something that kind of I use to inspire myself. When you're doing something different and you're a change agent, you're kind of trying to pioneer a new path. People can get a bit confused of why you're not following the same path as everyone else. Why are you choosing to do things a bit differently? And I think it takes a while for people to kind of come on board and go, oh, I get it now. All right, I get that. Actually, that's pretty cool. And you're doing something that no one else is really doing. And that's full of effort and challenge and striving. And I think, I wish we could see more businesses taking those steps, bigger, bolder steps, where they want to really try to do things very differently, like not following the herd.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think although on the surface a lot of companies are changing their vision and their views, actually deep down and the roots and even the values that are on the wall, and we've talked about this before, are they lived? Because that's all part of the journey and how we're trying to get there. We may be a century-old business, but how we got there maybe wasn't quite how we wanted it to be, maybe. I think it's really important to look at the whole package. I think companies can do more, certainly, to be really putting all their eggs into a purpose-driven and a really meaningful way of working for the kind of for the bettering of how we live and how we work and our life experience. I think that's really important. I kind of went to a lot of museums over the weekend and kind of looking at how has life changed throughout history, actually, and kind of looking at the Industrial Revolution and all of those stages. Is our life significantly better? I think it is in many, many ways. Could it be even better if we all pulled together and pulled our resources in the right way and fight the really meaningful things in this world around climate change, etc. I think it's really interesting because leaders of today are creating the mindset and the kind of the way of working for the future generations who are actually going to make the change. That's kind of how people are seeming to read it. We need to build great leadership to empower those who are just coming into this organization, coming into businesses all around the world and changing things and really making amazing strides. And, we can either dampen it and kind of soften it a little bit, or we can see where it can go. I realize this is my own internal monologue, maybe. And there's a load of caveats in there around actually making sure we do business and keep it risk-free, and well, not risk-free, but keep it safe, keep playing the game, as Simon Sinek says, in that infinite game. We need to make sure we're doing smart business because we don't want to run out of cash and all of those really critical things for a business to keep going. But I think fundamentally the way that we do things and why we do things can change.
Yeah, I think there's a big room to change, isn't there? It's just sometimes it's almost like you have to reveal it. You have to find it through a challenge. I think sometimes it's easier in a big challenge to turn around and go, well, hang on a second, we can change all of this. We don't have to keep going the same way just as we did before. And it's a challenge sometimes that confronts us to do those things, which I think we've seen in the pandemic a lot more. So we're coming on to the last 5 minutes then. So what's the so what then? And so in terms of pride, inspiration, kind of, you know, putting yourselves out there, being purposeful and meaningful, what's the so what? What can leaders and people who are listening in today do differently this week to either find a sense of pride for themselves or try and help support others to not only celebrate what they've done well, but share it in a way that they probably will get a really positive reinforcement from the people around them. What could you do differently? So I think it's always good to start kind of on a personal level, Ant. And I love putting you on the spot in these situations. So
thanks for that. No, I try and live this, right? So there's something for me around celebrating progress and celebrating the week that's gone by. And I know a lot of the team know that I use our human leadership checklist to go, is the way that we're doing things on track with how I want to be and how I want to live, and am I living up to what we talk about and how we talk to clients and what we preach about, I guess, in that sense. So continuing to do that though, when you're under stress or you're under pressure or you've got a new team, you know, we've been onboarding loads of new people. So just making sure that you are celebrating and you are reflecting at the end of the week and you are making time for it. Book a meeting with yourself for 30 minutes at the end of the day and make sure that you do it, turn up on time. I think it's really important to do that. But I think for me, the so what is, if people are feeling pride, people will connect. And when people connect, we're more productive as a team and as a unit, and we're more resilient. That, you know, there's plenty of data and research out there that says those things. So in that self-reflection, making sure that we're making the links back to, okay, so how are we celebrating not just myself, but celebrating others and their progress, and really understanding what that progress means for that individual in that week, because it might not be what you think it is.
Yep. All of that.
Yeah, sorry, there's a lot more.
Very good. No, I'm impressed. I'm sitting there kind of just working it all through. Yes, I agree with all that. What am I going to do differently? I think I'm going to keep it very simple and practical. I think I'm going to start every meeting. I've got a lot of meetings this week. I'm going to start every meeting asking people what they're proud of. And it's a good time to be thinking about it in the year. You know, lots of people coming up to the end of their financial years, as we are, you know, looking ahead at next year's plans. What are we most proud of? What have we come through? What have we done recently that's made a difference? What's happened this week? And yeah, I think I'm going to use that in lots of different ways this week. And I'm going to ask people to tell me more about it as well, not just ask that one question, because I think people can easily kind of give like an easy answer to it, like, oh, you know, I got this thing completed yesterday really quickly. And like, yeah, okay, and why does that matter to you? So it's about digging in a bit deeper and understanding what's the strength that it's connected to, and what do I see in you in terms of that strength? How can I bring that out of you and help that kind of light shine brighter in the future? If that's something that gives you pride, that makes you feel strong and positive at work, then let's see what we can do to help create that more often, so that you have a really positive experience when you are working regularly, rather than it needing to be something separate and different. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I think we'll sign off now, but I think it's been a brilliant Monday Live chat this morning. Thanks, Ant. We still don't know how many people are listening each week, but I do get people regularly tell me that we pop up on their feed and they like just checking out and listening in with a cup of coffee. So I hope everyone who's listening on our YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn channels have enjoyed our small chat today. Let us know what you think. Send us in your comments and thoughts. And we'll be back next week with Monday Live, Humanising the World of Work. Thanks, Ant. I hope you have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
See you soon.